Hello, and welcome to Part 3 of the ALCTS webinar series, Challenges of Managing Streaming Media and Other Digital Content, Video Game Collections. I'm Mary Reeder, a member of the ALCTS Continuing Education Committee, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Our presenter today is Diane Robson, one of the media librarians at the University of North Texas. Diane began the UNT Media Library Game Program in 2009 to offer support and services to university coursework, as well as space for outreach and collaborative learning. She has been president of the American Library Association Games and Gaming Roundtable and co-chair of International Games Day since 2013. A few things to keep in mind for today's presentation. This webinar does not have interactive chat capabilities. If you wish to comment on today's presentation using Twitter, you may use the hashtag you see on the screen. We will not be monitoring the Twitter feed, however. In order to minimize any background noise, all attendees are muted. If you have questions for Diane, please type them into the questions box on the right side of your screen, and she will answer them at the end of her presentation. Questions which remain unanswered while we're on the air will be answered offline, and the answers sent to all. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive an email with the links to the recording, the presentation slides, and an evaluation within 2 days. There will be a slight delay as I turn the presentation over to Diane.
Do we have it, guys?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Hi, how's everybody doing today? My name is Diane. I am the University of North Texas Media Librarian, and I did begin this collection in 2009. We're our biggest university at about 35,000 students, and we have a really nice collection I'm going to talk about today. Okay, today, I'm going to speak about a few things that you will think about when you're starting your collection, and then we'll move into the UNT collection and how we're handling some of the issues that come with this collection. Terms to know as you start your collection are the digital rights management. It used to be just making sure that your copying and distribution was working. Sorry, guys. Was working well and not being stolen. Your second generation has become where you are limiting and tethering your devices to a service, like your phone is tethered to Verizon. We're seeing that some with our PC games being tethered to services, and they're being tethered to game platforms or portals such as Steam. So that's some of the things we're running into. So we'll be talking about some digital rights management and the platforms. We'll also talk a bit about emulators and the standalone PCs that we use here. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is, do games belong in libraries? A lot of people I'm having a bit of technical difficulties here, guys. I'm sorry. A lot of people think games don't belong in libraries. They do belong in libraries, and the reason they do is because they're part of our cultural legacy. The games have been around for 40 years, so you want to provide items to your patrons that are useful for them as they move through the day and into their lives. And gaming is huge, so you want to be able to provide access to what they're going to need as they either become game designers or just learn about games because they're part of the culture. And one of the things is that you're seeing more gaming language as just part of our cultural history around us. And this is an example. Has anybody seen this term? And I think a lot of people probably have. The Oregon Trail. A lot of people have played this game. I'm a little old for it, but a lot of people younger than me in my program have played this game in their library or at home as kids. So we're providing access to materials that have been around. They need to be in our libraries. And academic libraries have a part to play to keep the to keep preservation of this culture. A lot of film, if you're a film librarian, you realize that a lot of film was lost because people weren't preserving it, and libraries have a place to play in that. But we also want to provide things that are educational, and people are going to say, games aren't educational. They are. They're hugely educational. And here's a good quote from the Institute of Play. Games get people together collaborating, and you're playing and you're learning. And I don't know how many of you have played a game where you want to improve your skills. So you're out researching how to be a better game player, or you're playing a board game and you're doing strategizing and collaborating and examining what other people are doing. You're doing a lot of things that are really taxing your critical thinking skills, but you're having fun and you're playing and you're getting to know people. And games are a great way to do that in your library, and it's a great way to get people thinking and working out their brains without, you're sort of putting it in there, you're sneaking it in on them, and they don't realize they're learning a lot of stuff. They actually think they're playing. Okay, statistics in gaming. Gaming is huge. If you are a gamer, you realize how big gaming is. I don't know that everybody that doesn't game knows how big it is. Half of us are gaming, as you can see. 42% of Americans are playing games regularly. A lot of people don't consider their phone games as games, but they are. 51% of households are playing on a console. 34 years old, that's the average age of a gamer. It's not a kid playing games. It's a lot of us that have grown up with games and we're still playing them, and our kids are playing them. 67% of households are playing video games. And then again, it's a huge industry, and this again is where academic libraries, you can get if you're having trouble getting your collection started, or if you have a collection and people sort of doubt it, it's a huge industry. So if your university is offering any sort of entertainment degree, RTVF, our radio, television, film. There's an RTVF department. There's game design. Do a game design, so you're supporting that as people move off into the industry to be designers. And not necessarily just game programmers, but everything that goes with getting a game from development all the way throughout to being sent out to the users. So 146,000 people are employed directly or indirectly with game design. And the 52% of revenue, that's digital content. And digital content is your Candy Crush and your Farmville, the things a lot of people are playing on their phones, where they'll have the pay-to-play and some of that stuff that's happening when you're using your devices to play. It's a huge, huge industry, and a lot of money is in that industry. Okay, there's 3 types of collections I'm going to talk about when you're thinking about starting a game collection or having a game collection in your library. There's an archival game collection, research game collections, and recreational collections. And you can decide if you want one of these or all of these. So we have our part to play. Libraries are around to collect. We're preserving things. We're holding things as valuable for future generations. And right now, I don't know that the value of games is being noticed by everyone. And film wasn't noticed at first. And now people are like, oh no, we've got to preserve this. Games are in the same state right now. People are preserving them. There are lots of people preserving games. They're emulating games. But it's not libraries necessarily. So there are libraries that are starting to do this. Some people have really great game archival collections, not even necessarily libraries. There are people within academic institutions creating archival collections to preserve games, the digital artifacts from games created on their campus, the boxes games are in, all of that can be in an archival collection. We have this really old Odyssey game that sadly doesn't work, but there's all sorts of stuff out there. This was donated to us, basically Pong, but that's in our archival collection. Research collection. So academic library, you're here for kids to do research. Again, you're going to get pushback. What, games you can't do research? Yes, yes, games are a part of our world, and people are doing lots of research around games. 400 universities have video game design courses. That's a lot of kids learning how to design games. A lot of people focused around the energy, all the things around game design. It's not just programming, it's your art departments learning how to do the design for the, the graphic design, and just all the way through project management. And we had several speakers come speak about all the things that they need to just get a game going and out into the world to be played. Other departments are using games as well. Just on our campus, we have people in our art department, communication departments, journalism, learning technologies, linguistics, radio, television, and film, and several other classes. Now, they may not be playing games, creating games. They may be looking at the culture of gaming, looking at the language of gaming. How much language has come out of gaming? There's so much that you will just hear and use. RTVF, some people are using games to set up their scenes before they film them. So you'll see some of that. And here's a picture of one of our UNT game developers. We have some student groups on campus. We have quite a few student groups that are based around gaming. And we encourage that in our library for kids to start learning about creating games. Recreational collections. That's the last type of collection. I think it's the hardest one to sell to your faculty. But recreational collections are very valuable to you and your patrons. These collections can enhance your programming and outreach. It's really easier to host an event and say, hey, let's play some games. It's so easy. It sells itself right there. Let's play some games. You're building a community, though, and that's the biggest thing I want to point out. You're building a community using games. A lot of universities, you hear a lot of talk about retention and students feeling lonely and not having friends and not knowing how to make friends. And gaming is a great way to get that going. We have communities here. We start our first flight as the first part of school. All the freshmen have to come through. We do 3 nights of gaming, and about 1,000 students come through there. And they come in, they look a little lost, they look a little lonely, but they've all played Super Smash Brothers. So they can go and sit down with someone they don't know and play some Smash. At the end of the night, they're trading phone numbers. They've made some friends. And if we see someone that still doesn't feel comfortable doing that, we go sit with them, hey, play a game with us. So we get to know them. So that's a good thing, too. You're building a community, and you're helping with retention, and then you're encouraging learning through play. So there is so much value in play, and we've lost that in our society, that play is learning, and it doesn't matter what type of play. You're playing, you're learning, you're being able to fail without failure. You're failing, you're retrying, and there's no loss at all as you do this, and you're moving through your day. So recreational collections have a big value in your library as well. Okay, starting your game collection. So it's not easy to start your game collection. You have to stop and think, and it's better, I think, to start small and do a really great job than to start too big and not do as well, because there is a lot of doubt about the gaming in libraries. Should they be in libraries? And just this week with International Games Day, I've had so many interviews where people are, games don't belong in libraries. So you really have to sell it as being valuable. So you really need to think about how you're going to start your collection. And you need to ask some questions before you get going, and you have to decide what you can do in your library to do it successfully. So you have to think, what are the goals of your collection? It depends on your library. It depends on what type of collection do you want to have. Do you just want to have that archival collection? Do you just want to focus on just what people need for their classes, just educational? You're just going to buy what someone requires for a class. Are you going to do a recreational collection? Are you going to just do a little bit of everything? And that's sort of what it ends up being if you get a big collection. It's a little bit of everything. You also have to think, what kind of formats can we purchase? What can we support format-wise? Digital game collections that are born digital are very hard to collect on university campuses because of the licensing. So that will be a conversation that comes up. I'm not sure how that will be solved in the future, and we'll talk about that more in here, but it is a problem, the born digital games. Physical games are very easy to collect. If you have to have a device to play them on, so you have to be able to purchase the games and the consoles. We don't circulate something that we don't have something for it to play on, so we make sure we have the device and the game. So think about that. Do you just want to circulate out and hope that everyone has a device at home, or do you want to be able to offer them the whole experience of playing all of it? Tabletop and board games, they're great. You want to start a collection, start from the very beginning, start from a tabletop collection. It is very little work to get that going, and it's easy to do without too much pushback from anyone at all. So once you know what type of collection, you have to think about what it requires to keep that collection going and what kind of support you'll need. And really, you have to think about the other areas in your library. We're a big library. We have a big tech support crew. I don't know if it's good or bad. If you had real good technical expertise and you knew a lot of stuff yourself, you do have to sit and think, what kind of tech skills do I have? Do I have enough to support the PCs? It's one thing to load up a game at home and play it. It's another to load it up at work and make it through all the sort of restrictions we have on our PCs up here to stop hacking and wireless restrictions, things that come with being on the university campus with your PCs. Dedicated game consoles, it's much easier. We don't connect to the internet here, so we just let them play on the consoles. It's just putting the disc in and playing. Handheld systems, again, are very easy for us. There's also the smartphones and wireless devices. You can offer those as gaming too, but you have to think about the tech support needed. So it's not simply loading the game. What does it take to run those? Do you know how to set them all up? What kind of internet access do you have if you're going to allow that? All of that has to be thought about beforehand, because you don't want to just throw this at someone, because, again, this is a collection that sometimes people have doubts about. So make sure that you really thought out, what am I doing, what do I need, and how is this going to affect our tech department? And on top of that is a contract librarian. We have a contract librarian, so we're lucky that I can just hand stuff off. I don't have to know all about contracts. But I also have to stop and think, oh, I don't want to overwhelm them with contracts. So I make sure that I'm giving them little bits at a time, and then I'm not just giving them crazy stuff I think will pass through contracts. So you have to think, can my contract librarians support what I'm going to be asking of them? We have very strict legal requirements here. A lot of things do have to go through there, but they're really good at it, and a lot of things pass through. So we're just real conscientious of how we use our contract librarian. But we do use them, and we do use our tech support. So we're just really trying to work together and have a little happy family as we do this, so nobody gets overwhelmed by the game collection with all the other work they have to do. Okay, UNT's game collection. So we started our game collection in 2009. It was just a little project management project that I had. It was great. We wrote it up. I was like, we should have a game collection. And I wrote it all up, and it just sat in this folder for a while, and this might be something to do if you don't have one yet. And then someone said, hey, we got some money. I said, hey, yes, I've got something I want to spend money on. So we started our game collection. It started out as for that first flight event. We thought, well, let's do some games for that event to get students in here and playing. This picture on this slide is from this year's first flight event. We had 905 students come through that event, and it was almost overwhelming because our space is not huge, so it's really grown in those few years that we've had it. So our game collection, we have really sat down and written some goals of our collection. What are they? Because we do have to have our little elevator speech that we give to our dean or anyone else that is asking about our collection. What are our goals? Why does this exist? So we consider our collection educational and recreational collection. We do have some stuff that's sort of archival, but it's really not. So that's something we have stuff in our stacks that just sits there until we can decide if someone can make it an archival collection. So it's not really a valid archival collection in the sense that someone's really preserving it. I'd like to get it all up and emulated so people could play it. Our collections to increase library collaboration across campus and the community. We work with the dorms. I meet with the dorms each semester, and I'm like, hey, here's what we're doing. How can we help you with what you're doing? And it's focused around gaming and learning through gaming. We improve library literacy and familiarize students with the libraries. At this first flight event, students are coming in. They're learning all about the libraries. They're not just playing games. We force them to listen to us and hear about what else is in the library. We're thinking about creating a library literacy escape room. So there's a lot of educational opportunity around games. And then we enhance student collaboration and success. We have a lot of student groups around gaming. So I am their faculty advisor, so I'll go out and we'll talk about what are they doing around their games, what are their goals. Some of them are esports people that are playing competitively across Texas and the world even. Some of them are creating games, and some of them are just playing games. And we just all talk to each other and see how can this be valuable to us. And they're learning how to be leaders, even if it's just playing games. They're learning how to be leaders of groups and just holding some successful events together. And I think it's been really great to see students getting to know each other through this program. Okay. Our collection. So we play our games. If we get something, we try to play it. Like we worked so hard to try to get that old Pong game working. We couldn't get it working. So if we get it, we're going to play it. So if someone hands me something that's a one-of-a-kind, only one person in the world has it, I'm going to be, wait a minute, that needs to go somewhere where they're going to preserve it because we're going to try to play it. We collect. I do all the curation for the game collection. So we have a lot of goals in mind. We collect top-rated games because we have a recreational collection. We want people playing those top-rated games. They want those top-rated games. So we buy those top-rated games. And a lot of times those are going to be the historically relevant games anyway. We also go back and buy historically relevant games. So we got some money this summer, so we thought, let's go back. We need to go back and see what was the game, what was this game engine. We need to get a game that was the first game on that game engine. We need to get this game. It has great artwork. Stuff that's sort of noted in the history of games that we can still grab and play, we try to grab that too and put it in our collection. If a faculty member needs it for coursework, we do buy it for coursework, and we've bought several games that faculty have wanted, some Beowulf games for an English class, so we'll purchase that as well. And then we look at all of our requests. We just have a request box people can pop their stuff into, and we'll do that. And it's a pretty broad collection. We're looking at some other aligning our collections to some learning needs too in the education department. So we do go out and think about all of that as we're purchasing as well. Since it is just single item orders, there is no sort of patron-driven acquisitions for games, unless you count having your own Steam account and purchasing your games that you want to play. There's no mass way to just say, give us all these games. But we do find, I mean, we don't have a huge budget, so we do find doing our single item purchases, and we just tell our acquisitions department, here's what we want. It'll fit with our licensing limitations, and they put the order in, and we order it from Amazon most of the time, and it comes to us. So there's no like easy way to do this, though it's not hard if you've been in libraries for a long time. The single orders, you know, are fine as long as you're not trying to spend $10 million doing it that way. We offer access to games on our PCs. There's a lot of different platforms and portals. So our PCs, the licensing does allow us to load these platforms. We just cannot have a library account on the platform. So we provide access to the basic platform for these games. So some of those would be Steam, Good Old Games. Those are the two we have loaded on our PC. If students ask for others, we will look at the licensing to load them. We've got Blizzard loaded, so they can go in and play StarCraft, World of Warcraft, stuff like that. But they're using their own accounts because there's no multi-user license for that. And then we also link off to browser-based games. And if you do not have any money at all, you're like, oh, I can't afford a game collection, you don't have to afford a game collection. I'll talk about this more later, but there's a lot of free stuff out there that you can at least provide links to resources and people can play around some in between classes in your library if you have PCs. And there's 3. Games for Change is a great site. Those are games that people are trying to make more educational games and about just things all over the world or just learning, you know, educational outcomes, and some of those games are great. Donations. We, for a long time, did not have much money at all for our collection. We got a little amount to start the collection, then we did quite a few years where we asked for donations. Game companies are great. Tabletop game companies are really great. Donations. Don't ever think that you just shouldn't cold call people. I do it every year. It's part of my year. I send out letters. Hey, we would love to have some free games. Valve sent us a box full of games and lanyards and all sorts of cool stuff. People in tabletop games, they'll just send you games. People are really generous in the game industry, especially the tabletop game industry. So definitely go out and solicit games. And half of our collection, when it was smaller, was mostly donated games, and it was really great. And then now our patrons donate their games as well. So you want to make sure that you build a nice, happy community that they think of you first when they're getting rid of their games, not GameStop. And then subscription services are a way to get games as well. This year, OnePlay popped up on our horizon. They are a new company, and I met them at ALA, and they are offering a multi-user license for libraries. And it is a platform that you would log into using a passcode, and your patrons would have their own passcode, and they would get in, and anything that was in that portal they could then play. I have not used it yet. It's not as expensive as Steam is right now, and I think it has a lot of older games. It would be compared a little bit to having Good Old Games, but you'd have a multi-user license and you could play some stuff. There are some public libraries I know of right now that are using it, so in about a year's time we'll be able to see what people are saying about that new platform. But it's good to know that someone is thinking about libraries as a subscription service for games, and that would be really beneficial to people that can't do, don't have the knowledge or access to someone who can help them do those single orders and know what to purchase to get their game collection going. Okay, our hardware. This, and when you're starting your collection, this is probably the hardest part, is getting hardware. Our collection has 6 PCs and 6 laptops. This summer we got a nice little boost in funds, so we were able to up our collection a little bit. So the 6 PCs are gaming PCs. They're really nice. They are Dell PCs because we have a contract with Dell. You don't have to buy Dell to have a good gaming PC. That's what we did because of our contract, but they're great. We love them, and the graphics are wonderful in them, and they are always being used. We do a 2-hour checkout on those, and we have stuff loaded on them, all of the Steam, the Good Old Games, and some different game creation software and different platforms that students can log into. And we have game consoles. We have 4 game stations set up right now that students can play in-house, but we also circulate our game consoles. And we have from PS2 up to the current generation of game consoles. And then we have some handheld game systems. We did just have a Nintendo, which is spelled wrong there. Nintendo, not Tinto. DS, we've just got a 3DS, PSP, and a Vita, so we are using those and checking those out quite a bit. The other digital game devices are your smartphone and your wireless devices. We do not use those here because of licensing issues, so right now it's not beneficial for us to have them. We can't check them out to students, and we can't use them for a lot of things, so we're not worrying about smartphones and wireless devices right now. What kind of software can you get? Software, again, physical items, just like ordering books or anything that you buy as a physical item in your library, discs and cartridges. Most of the consoles, again, are disc and cartridges, and it's really easy to get those, barcode them. There's a lot of records, almost all the records are in OCLC for games, so it's nice to be able to catalog those and get them and just circulate them out to your patrons. So that's what we have, a lot of physical items like that. This is where the problem starts with digital content, again, for games, is the console portals, the Nintendo eShop, the PlayStation Network, and the Xbox Live Marketplace. If you go in and look at their contracts, it is single user. So our patrons can have their own account. We don't allow that in here because we're afraid that they'll leave it logged in. So you might have your own account. It limits our ability to do some digital downloads of new neat indie games. We do have to wait till they come out on disc, but usually if it's a great game, it will eventually come out on disc. I remember watching Limbo when it first came out. It was a really neat game, and we had to wait almost 2 years before we could buy that and play that. And there have been some other games like that as well. But that's where you're going to start to run into issues if you have more strict licensing issues on your campus and follow it strictly for the single user to multi-user, is the console, the shops that you can do with your consoles. And the same thing with PC game platform portals. Steam, it's great. I love Steam. I use it at home, but they do not have a multi-user license. And I know people are using it multi-user, but really if you look at the license, it is a single-user license, and it should only be used for a single user. And they do expand it out to family, but it doesn't mean a license that 400 people can use that one game in your library, even though it's one person playing at a time. Good Old Games, single-user license again. GameTap and OnePlay are both platform subscription platforms. OnePlay does have the multi-user. GameTap right now is a little iffy on what you can do with them, and not many people are using GameTap right now in libraries that I know of. If you are, contact me, and then I'll see how that's working for you. But those are the physical ways that you can play video games in your library, and disc and cartridge is by far the easiest way to do this because of licensing. And we feel like Tiger Woods here about licensing. It's limiting in what you can do. It's not a death knell for your library, but it really is hard to do a lot of the new digital stuff because of the single-user licenses. Here at UNT, it's fairly strict on how we do our licensing. I'm lucky that I have a contract librarian that I can send that off to, and I say, hey, look at this. Does it work? And they do all the contract stuff for me, and they'll give me a yes or a no. And we do have a site that then they'll put that information on so we can see if it's already passed through the contract process. And a lot of times we're going to know ahead of time, is it a single user or multi-user? Same thing with end-user license agreements. Here at UNT, we can't just click the I accept button, and I'm sure that's at a lot of other places too. Someone does have to read that EULA before someone can accept it, and it has to be approved through UNT. And again, UNT does have a site, so we can go see what has passed through the contract process already, and we can know if it's something that we might consider being able to do. So how does it affect our collection? Physical games, it doesn't. We just do those first sell doctrine. We just circulate that as if you were a book. And I know there are some inserts in some of the games that talk about multi-user and public play and stuff like that. So we don't run tournaments because of that with some games. We don't run tournaments at all with games here. We let students do what they want to do with them, but we don't do it officially as UNT. But our physical items are first sell doctrine circulated just like you would a book. And we don't put any restrictions on those at all, so students can just check them out and use them. And we just hope they're not breaking copyright laws. They have them. Digital console game access, we don't allow it. Licensing issues, as soon as you log in, single user license, there's nothing we can do about it, so we just don't do any digital downloads, which again has stopped us from getting some really neat games when they first come out, but we just live with it. There's nothing we can do. And we don't even connect our consoles to the internet. And we do get a little grief from the students about it, but we explain there's an account security issues of them walking off and leaving it logged in, them downloading stuff and someone messing with it, so we just don't allow it on our consoles. Now they can check consoles out, take them home, they can do what they want with them at home. We just let them know that there is they need to make sure they've locked it and they've closed it all down. When it comes back, we'll look at it as well, but we do send out a little notice saying that you know that there's no privacy on this and you need to make sure you're closing all your accounts when you use it. So our in-house consoles are not connected to the internet, and we don't allow any downloading of any born digital content onto those consoles. PC games. This is an issue with PC games. We do provide access, again, to those platforms and portals. Blizzard, a lot of games on Blizzard, and I think there'll be some new stuff coming out that might be free. League of Legends, oh my goodness, League of Legends, constantly being played over here. There are actually some people tournamenting on League of Legends. So it's free. Students have their own account. It's all free, though. That's something that you'll see a lot of students playing. We do have Star Wars: The Old Republic loaded, and people will play that. A lot of people playing on Steam. I'm playing Skyrim on Steam. I'm sure a lot of people playing Fallout 4 now on Steam. Steam's another platform. It's free to put it on your PC. People use their own accounts where they've bought their own games for that portal. It is digital rights management strictly tied into Steam. There's no multi-user license. Right now, people are talking to Valve to see, hey, can we get a multi-user license? It's just a really hard road, and we all need to see, as game librarians, we need to band together to see what we can do about that with Steam, because they're great, but we need a multi-user license. Good old games, digital rights management free. That's nice not having to deal with the DRM. I'll talk about what Steam does with DRM in a minute, but it's nice not having to deal with some of the digital rights management that Steam has tied to theirs. There again is no multi-user license with that. And then we do allow access to subscription portals if someone wants to get into something well, we don't have a subscription portal here, but there are subscription portals, so you can get in if you have a multi-user account for one of those, and that would be GameTap and OnePlay. Older games. The problems with older games is not because of digital rights management. It is because they're old. They don't want to play on newer software, and I think we really hit that with Windows XP, where older games don't want to play. We are dependent on older software. We have a hard time getting them to play on any of the new Windows systems because of the way DOS is used in them. What we did with our collection, about 300 items were donated, so we just threw them in this laptop. Did they play? And if they played, we circulated them. And really amazingly, quite a few of them were fine. And the ones that weren't, we then went to our next solution. We had a really great tech guy that set us up a DOS emulator on one of our standalone PCs. So some of the old games like the original Warcraft and some just old fun games. We've got about 60 of those running on this standalone PC. But you do have to have someone that's willing to sit and mess with these emulators. And that may take some time. So if you're doing this with an older game, make sure that or old games, just make sure that you have, don't take up someone's time. You want to work more on getting more current stuff running for your students, and then work on the older stuff, because it can be really aggravating. If you've tried doing old stuff on your PC, you understand that. Okay, some of the access issues you might just have because you're on a campus. Digital rights management and how it works with Steam has been a problem on our campus. A lot of campus computers have a deep freeze on them, and deep freeze means that it's set to a particular time. And what happens then is every time someone uses that, anything they've done after that time, once they leave in 15 minutes, it goes bonk, and it goes back to that time. And then you lose everything that you've done right there. So what we had a problem with is our PCs did have a deep freeze on them. So Steam has this custom executable generation, and it's the fear that someone's going to steal everything they own, that they've done this CEG. I'm not sure how necessary it is. Of course, as a gamer, I'm coming from that viewpoint. But what it does is you're playing Skyrim, so you've logged into your Steam account, and Steam has already made you put your key code in. So you've put that in, and then you go to play Skyrim. Well, it's like, wait, we've got to ping out, we've got to ask Bethesda, do you really own this? So then it goes out. It says, yes. Bethesda goes, yes, I own it. And then it to save the CEG into the executable. Well, of course, our computers are set up where people cannot modify the executable. So then someone in our staff has to go over and put in an admin password, and then it's fine, and they can play Skyrim. When we had the deep freeze on, as soon as they left, bam, all that was wiped out. So it was making playing Steam games really hard. So it limited people's Steam libraries to probably a third of their games. And this is just going to get more and more items with this CEG in there. So what our tech people did was they took that deep freeze off, and it's been really nice to test it to see if we are able to keep these PCs alive and not full of junk and viruses and all of that. So we took the deep freeze off. So it's a bit of a risk. This is, again, where community comes in. I told most of my gaming community, I'm like, we took the deep freeze off. Don't be a knucklehead. Don't do something stupid on these PCs, because if you're being malicious, anything on them, this is going to be put back on there, and we all remember how horrible it was having to deal with it. So let's be nice to our PCs, and then they've all, once you've built your community and they trust you, you trust them, and you get this going, and they're fine. And so far we've gone 4 months, and we've not really had an issue. So now we still have to, Steam still goes out, it still says, hey, do you really own this? We still have to put the admin password in, but we just do it once, and we don't have to do it every time they play. So we're still having to put in an admin password, but instead of doing it, it was like 30 times a day. It was really frustrating. Instead of doing that, it's like, the first time they play a game. So I think the most we're doing it once or twice a day, and all of our staff knows that password. So it's really helped that issue. So if you're running into issues with digital rights management in Steam, it may be the deep freeze, and you just have to hope that your tech people will let you take that off. I know it's there to stop people from doing something nefarious, and our computers still cycle off, and they still wipe out the account passwords and stuff like that, so we're not having those problems. But it did ease some of that inputting passwords all the time. Almost had to pull my chair out there and just do that all day. Okay, how are we getting around some of these issues? There are some emerging digital resources. The first one is OnePlay. OnePlay, I'm really excited to have them working with us, and they are actually working with a lot of librarians, and they're coming to ALA and they're listening to us, and they're doing things to try to help with the multi-user license, and they do see the problems with it. The problem is it's hard for them to afford all the licenses for the really great games. So they have about 1,000 games for download. You can get it for PC and Android and Mac. A lot of educational games. Last time I talked to them, they were doing a bunch of Disney games. And I haven't been and looked through their full catalog in a while, but I do know people are using them. So it might be really a viable service soon to be able to use OnePlay in your library because of the multi-user license. And then there's another group that's making a library console. So this was run with a grant, and what they're doing is they're developing a library console that they will then send out by subscription. Again, you would pay a little bit, and then you would get the console. And the console would be loaded with indie games, and you would just play it in your library. So they spent the first part of their grant getting the gigabyte bricks working with this software that they needed. I know they had a little bit of trouble with that. And then when they get some more funding, which they're looking for right now, they will start trying to contact out to indie game developers and trying to get them to realize the benefits of letting libraries have access to their games. And I think that's going to be, I don't know, it could be hard, I don't know, it could be easy, we'll see. We'll have to see. We just need people to see the value of lots of people in the libraries playing their games all the time, and if we can break through that little barrier, it might be much easier. But they're real positive, and I keep giving them a little cheerleading, like, let's keep it going, and let's see if we can get this working too, because it'd be nice to have several avenues for doing this multi-user licensing and having lots of places to get games. And if you already have a game collection, you already know how hard it is to get access to some of those indie games just because of licensing. And it's the same way when you do DVDs. In the beginning days, I've been doing that since 2000, it was just people had no idea about licensing. They still sometimes don't. We're sort of that way with gaming. People don't understand the licensing. They can create a game, but they don't know how to necessarily license it. So we're sort of in those days. And if these guys can handle it, it would be great. Steam machine. We don't have a Steam machine. We were looking at this when we had the deep freeze. If you have a Steam machine, I want to hear about it, and I wish you'd email me what you're doing. We're hoping that the Steam OS helps us get around some of the issues. If we have to turn our deep freeze back on, we'll be right back to those issues. So we're not sure how the Steam account will work with that. We think it might, this is just a direct access into Steam, nothing else may be on there. It might be easier to just have it and not have to have all the deep freeze on it. So we might look at this in the future. We're not sure. So if you're already running a Steam machine, let me know how it's going. But I'm hoping that this is a way for libraries to at least provide access without some of the issues they would face on their campus with some of the deep freeze and security issues. Okay. So it always seems hard at first. When we first started our collection, we barcoded everything. We were so scared. People are going to steal stuff. We were so worried, and none of it has happened. None of that has happened. It has really been very successful. We've not had to deal with anything horrible that we thought would happen. And even with the issues that we're having with PC games and hopefully consoles won't go to tethering. But anything we're having with digital games, we still have a really robust collection. And I think your first goal, if you have no collection at all, just create a guide, link out to free game resources. And it didn't have to be games you're playing, because we've created a LibGuide. The UNT Game Developers is a student group that develops games. So I said, send me all the game software you're using to create your games. And they did. So I have a LibGuide that links off to everything they use as they're creating their games, and all of the software that they're using is free. Everything in this list is free. We put it through our licensing. You don't have to pay for it. You link off to it. You let people use it. Unreal Engine 4, Unity. People are creating the games you buy and play using these game engines. Go play it. If you don't do anything but you want a game collection, you don't have any money, you can at least create a website with links off to game creation software. You've done that, and you can show people, look, you can do this from home if you have a PC. You might need a higher-end PC to do some of the game engine stuff, but you can do this from home. And some of this Scratch, Play My Code, and Twine, it's just fun to use. So go out and at least get that set up on your website for people to use as a resource. Internet Archives, a little bit of a gray area with copyright with Internet Archives. We know that with all their stuff. They have all these links. They have all these games. It's the history of games on Internet Archive. These are all browser-based, emulated in the browser games. People upload them, so you can't be 100% sure they're going to work. But go play with it. Go see what's in there. This is, again, something you can link to. So if you don't have any sort of game collection and someone's interested, you can say, go look at this site. It's got some neat stuff on it. You don't need to worry about spending money. Just let them know it's there, because a lot of people don't realize it's there. You can go play Oregon Trail. Okay, and how are we going to keep going in the future? We don't know what's going to happen with games. It really is a big unknown. I think the big thing is to keep collecting your physical items. Right now, you know this by the fact that indie games born digital indie games do eventually hit discs, so they're still making money off disc, or they wouldn't be selling discs. And I think, just like books, discs still exist. They still need to exist. So keep buying those physical games. And then my hope is that we can get enough game librarians and just interested parties together to really look at this multi-user license problem, that if OnePlay can't really get it robustly moving forward, that we need to be approaching different people, just like people did with ebooks or people have done with film. We need to say that libraries are a viable audience. They need to support us with some licensing, and seeing if we can get that all going for libraries and doing the things that we did for video years ago and educating the people selling the games, hey, here's how you need to do this for libraries to use it. But definitely keep collecting games. Keep collecting your physical items. It's easy to do. We circulate our games. We check them out for 3 days, and they're really a high-use item. They're out all the time. Our game stations are in use all the time. Our stats for circulating justify the game existence for recreational use. Now, you have to pull in the educational for people to still find value in it, but a lot of people come here between classes. They have fun, so it is a hugely valuable collection in circ stats. Okay, solicit donations. Make sure you build your game community. Let them know that they go make $3 off their game at GameStop, or they can donate it to you. If you're building your community and they love your community and they're part of it, they will most likely donate it to you. You want to let everybody know that they can donate to you. You want to contact game developers and let them know to donate to you. Or game companies, all of them will donate to you. So just give it a shot. All you can do is say no. So I want to leave off International Games Days this weekend. Get to go and play some games in your library. It doesn't need to be a huge event. Just sit down and play a board game. Here's some gaming groups if you're not already a member of a gaming group. Games and Gaming Roundtable, again, is great. A lot of if you remember ALA, you should join that if you're interested in games. The Legal Librarian Gamers Facebook group is great. Join that. Even if you're not a librarian that does games, it's a great group that has a lot of interesting comments in there. And then I've liked the Women in Games International Facebook group because they just link off to some cool different things that are happening in the game world that don't get a lot of attention. Here's some sites. These are these slides that show some of the online games that you can go play. And the different platforms and portals you might want to look at if you don't game already. And then I want to say thanks to I didn't do this alone. I had a lot of help. I depend on my staff. I depend on my younger staff to help me know what's coming up through the generations. So thanks to them. And then keep gaming.
All right. Thank you very much, Diane. If anybody has any questions, please type them into the questions box. We have one here from Kathy right now. When Xbox, PS4 were first coming out, there were various kinds of copy protection, maybe requiring internet connectivity. Did this resolve favorably or unfavorably for libraries?
Well, it didn't happen, thank goodness. They were strongly tethering the disks to those as well. So not only did you have to have internet connectivity, but you had to use the disk only in that console. It was horrifying. It was horrifying when that happened. It didn't happen, though. There was enough outcry, not just from libraries, but just from gamers in general, that didn't happen. I'm afraid that might happen, and that is when I'm talking to other gamers or game librarians is what are we going to do? And I think that's why we need to get together and see. I think when the next generation comes out, it might be another scare, and we might not win the battle to be able to circulate in libraries. So it is an issue, and it's something we need to be looking at, and we need to be gathering all of us together and trying to see how we can deal with it if it does happen.
Okay. Does most of your funding come from your library budget then, or are you relying more on donations and grants now?
Well, we got a little first $5,000 startup, which is a lot for some. It got us going. Our program then, we did it a little bit on the cheap. It's all been library funding, though. We've had no grant funding. We had a lot of donations for our tabletop collection, but then this summer our game collection has been so successful that we've got pulled more into the strategic planning of the library as a whole. Because we have a lot of game programs, but we also teach game design as well. So we were pulled up a notch and given some more funding and a little more attention to what we're doing. We all work very hard. There's several of us that we put a lot of energy into our game collection and making it successful. It's easy to do. I mean, it's easy to put your energy into something so fun, and so that's how we've done it. But it has been library funding, and I know how lucky we've been to have that funding, because I know a lot of people don't have it.
Yeah, and a lot of people are having cuts to their general budgets right now, so it'd probably be harder to justify having the games collection. You mentioned that most of the games that you have have records in OCLC, so you do formally catalog your entire collection?
We do, and I'm the cataloger. So
okay.
yeah, almost all the video games have records. I very rarely have to put in a record for a video game, and in fact, I don't know that I've ever had to do original cataloging on a video game record.
Okay.
Tabletop games are different. You're going to find a lot of records in Dutch and German because they're bigger over there. But right now, I bought a bunch of games this summer, and I cataloged all that had records, and then I waited 2 months and went back in, and a bunch more showed up, and I just did those, and I'll put in original cataloging as I get them and put those in there. And of course, the whole collections we're converting our collections over to RDA as well, so we'll have RDA records. The records are missing really robust subject headings. That is not happening for these, and there's no like LC genre headings right now. There's no really good headings for them, so we'll end up doing some local headings for that.
Okay. And do they have links to all of the creative people behind the video games?
We do as much as we can, yeah. And some of that, yeah, especially for tabletop games, we definitely link off to the artists and different people for those as well.
Okay. All right. You mentioned that you have a LibGuide. Is that publicly available?
Yes, you can look up UNT Library LibGuide, and you can look up. We have one for our media design, game design, and we also have one that's just game educational resources. So it's more of if you're using games in an educational environment. Okay. So all of the UNT LibGuides, you can go out and look at those, but you can just search around on our site and see those, and they're off of the UNT Media Library site as well.
Okay. Now, something occurred to me while you were talking. Do you ever have problems with non-traditional students bringing their kids in to play games while they're studying? And You
We
acting as
didn't.
pseudo babysitters?
We haven't. We have a few kids that we come in that we do know, and I know their parents a little bit, and I'll be like, don't worry. Most of the kids that do come in are tweens, teenagers.
Ah, okay.
They've mixed right in with our students. People are polite. That comes with building your game community. They know my game community knows me. They know all of us. Earlier today, someone was cursing. I was like, "Oh, your mouth," and we just do it sort of silly like, but it does make them go, "Oh, I shouldn't, be such a potty mouth." And it's a real happy space. So we've built this community in this sort of real happy space. So we have never had any problems. And there would be like 60 people in here gaming. It's no longer a quiet library. Every afternoon there's a lot of people in here gaming, and it's just a real happy space. And we've never had any sort of hostility. And we've had people actually come to us and say, this is going on in my life. I need help. And we send them off to the UNT care team. So we're sort of the space that students feel comfortable in. We have no way, we don't judge them. We're not grading them. We're just here as grown-ups that they can turn to if they need it. So it's a really nice community. I really enjoy being a part of it.
That is nice, and I can see how that would contribute to retention too, because obviously that's a big issue with a lot of academics right now. All right. You went through a couple of the slides there at the end kind of quick. Did you have contact information on there for this OnePlay site that you were mentioning?
It is, and it's just going to be at oneplay.com, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else in the audience have any more questions for Diane? All right. Well, I had all kinds of questions for you, but you answered them all. So I guess
I am happy to answer questions from anyone. Email me. I get emails all the time from libraries that are starting stuff, and since I run International Games Day, get a lot of emails, and I have no problem answering emails about anything that you have. Any questions, tabletop, video game. If you think I'm nutty and I gave you something wrong today, just email me. Tell me what you think. I will look at your opinion and maybe change what I'm doing. So.
All right, we got a couple questions that came in now. Do you have any restrictions on the game content? Do you avoid violent games?
We do not. We are an academic library. We don't censor what we purchase, just like we wouldn't censor a book. If you're here, you're grown up, and it's up to you to set what you want to watch and what you want to do. And there's value in looking at everything, and you may be doing research on violence in games.
Yeah.
So it has a value. We're all grown ups. We get that question sometimes. Do you restrict access? No, you're grown ups. We let you check out what you need.
All right. Do you have any interactions with your makerspace, gaming programming, etc.?
We do. I'm actually part of one of the makerspace people. We do a tabletop game design program every Thursday night. We open up our space and let people come in and learn to do tabletop games. We're going to jury those games and give them free printing at the makerspace. But one of our slides showed a game we had created, and we printed all the pieces in the makerspace. And I do actually help run makerspace programs. So we do a lot of that, and our Pixels and Pieces is our Thursday night gaming, and this year we're starting with tabletop games because it's just a little easier. We're just trying to encourage. Our big goal is to encourage our consumers to start creating. So we are partnered with the makerspace in doing that. We try to get people to create.
Nice. All right. Do you mount and check circulated items after they're returned?
We everything that comes in, we erase our everything. I mean, we circulate cameras, everything. So everything that comes in, we erase hard drives, we erase all of that, and we get things back to where the next person having it is starting off fresh. So we pull the cards and all that, whatever needs to be erased, we erase. And everything, we have had no issues with circulating. People are always scared about circulating. We have had zero issues. We have had a few things lost, but it's been 7 years. We've lost like 2 consoles. But when those people try to get their transcript, they're going to be paying some money. We're lucky that we're a university that we can do that. Public library, I don't know if it's a little harder, but we have had none of the issues that we thought would happen have happened, and it's been so much. It's not been any harder than circulating our DVDs. We do have a resurfacer here, so that helps with any scratches.
Oh, nice. So you have like one circulation desk for all of your media, or do you have a separate one for the? Okay.
It's a single desk, yeah.
All right. And all of your staff is trained on how to support the video games too then at that circulation desk?
Yeah, and they are, and we actually are going to do some more training because we have the new consoles. This is new consoles. I don't console game. Like looking at the Xbox, I'm like, where is the on button? They've like hidden stuff.
Oh,
We do little trainings where we have people learn how to sync the remotes and all of that. So they do go through training to learn how to do it. The hardest thing that we've had is our Oculus. We have an Oculus Dev Kit. It's a little buggy. It's a little hard to use, so that people are having a harder time when that's being used in-house. But everything else, we just show them how to turn it on and off and troubleshoot. And syncing remotes is the big thing, letting everybody know how to sync a remote for each console.
okay. And do you have student employees that staff the desk that help with this also, and you have to
Yeah.
train them every semester or every year?
Well, people love working in the media library.
I can imagine.
When we open a job, like 400 people apply, but we usually will get a student, and they'll stay their whole career here at UNT. So we're not usually training every semester. But we train them. They learn, and but a lot of people already know how to use consoles. So
Mhm.
it's one thing when I've never really used consoles. I grew up without them. I use PC games, and so I'm back there looking at the Xbox. I've got to learn how to use this. Well, they have one at home they're playing on probably. So, we do train them, but some of them already are pretty familiar with it already.
Okay. Are there any more audience questions? If not, you can probably switch back to me, Julia. All right. Well, thank you, Diane. That was very interesting, and I enjoyed that a lot. My son is a gamer. I'm not, so I'm learning all of this myself. And thank you to all of our attendees today. We hope you found today's session useful. Soon you'll receive a short online evaluation form. Please do take a few minutes to respond to the questions and return the form to us. Your comments are very valuable and help the ALCTS committee plan new continuing education events. Information about all ALCTS continuing education opportunities can be found on the ALCTS homepage at the URL on your screen. Upcoming webinars include Tactics for Time Management and Organizational Skills on December 2nd, followed by an RDA Serials Cataloging Update on December 8th. The first announced webinar for 2016 is Doing Oral History, which will be held on April 20th. An email-based e-forum will be held on December 9th and 10th on Discovery Layers versus the traditional catalog. ALCTS also offers multi-week web-based courses on subjects fundamental to technical services, including acquisitions, cataloging, and preservation. Suggestions for webinars and other continuing education opportunities are welcome at any time. Please submit your proposal using the Suggest a Webinar topic link on the upcoming ALCTS events page. And I would especially like to thank Julia Hess and Catherine Bellick and Megan Doherty from the ALCTS office for providing technical support for today's webinar. The support they and their colleagues on the Technical Support Subcommittee provide make it possible for us to present these webinars smoothly. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll all participate in other ALCTS continuing education offerings again in the future. Have a great day.